China was in chaos. Emperors assassinated, armies rebelling, and rival warlords fighting for control. Amid this turmoil, a new dynasty was about to rise, the Tang, destined to change China forever. When Gaozu became emperor, reigned 618 to 626 BC, he was still only one among the contenders for control of the empire of the Sui. It was several years before the empire was entirely pacified. After the suppression of Suiju and the pacification of the northwest, the Tang had to contend with three principal rival forces: the Sui remnants commanded by Wang Shichong at Luoyang, the rebel Li Mi in Henan, the rebel Do Jiande in Hebei, and Yuan Huaji, who had assassinated the previous Sui emperor Yang Di, and now led the remnants of the Sui's southern armies. Wang Shichong set up a grandson of Yang Di at Luoyang as the new Sui emperor. Yuan Huaji led his armies to attack Luoyang, and Wang Shichong persuaded Li Mi to return to his allegiance with the Sui and help him fight Yuan Huaji. Li Mi defeated Yuan Huaji's armies, but seriously depleted his own forces. Wang Shichong, seeing the chance to dispose of his most immediate rival, took over Luoyang and routed Li Mi's forces. Li Mi fled to Chang'an and submitted to the Tang. In the spring of 619, Wang Shichong deposed the puppet Sui prince at Luoyang and proclaimed himself emperor. The Tang armies gradually forced him to give ground in Henan, and by 621 Gaozu's son Li Shimin was besieging him in Luoyang. At that time, Wang Shichong attempted to form an alliance with Do Jiande, the most powerful of all the Sui rebels, who controlled much of Hebei and who had completed the defeat of Yuan Huaji's forces in 619. He held the key area of southern Hebei, where he had successfully resisted both the Tang armies and the forces of Wang and Li Shimin. Du now agreed to come to the aid of the beleaguered Wang. But in the spring of 621, Li Shimin attacked his army before it could lift the siege, routed it, and captured Dou. Wang then capitulated. The Tang had thus disposed of its two most powerful rivals and extended its control over most of the eastern plain, the most populous and prosperous region of China. This was not the end of resistance to the Tang conquest. Most of the surrendered rebel forces had been treated leniently, and their leaders were often confirmed in office or given posts in the Tang administration. However, Dou was executed, and Wang was murdered on his way into exile. At the end of 621, Dou's partisans in the northeast again rebelled under Liu Heita and recaptured most of the northeast. He was finally defeated by a Tang army under the Crown Prince Jiancheng at the beginning of 623. The prolonged resistance in Hebei and the comparatively harsh Tang conquest of the region were the beginning of resistance and hostility in the northeast that continued to some degree throughout the Tang Dynasty. Resistance was not confined to the northeast. Liu Wuzhou in far northern Shaanxi, who had been a constant threat since 619, was finally defeated and killed by his former Turkish allies in 622. In the south, during the confusion at the end of the Sui, Xiaoxian had set himself up as Emperor of Liang, controlling the central Yangtze region, Jiangxi, Guangdong, and Annam, Vietnam. The Tang army descended the Yangtze from Sichuan with a great fleet and defeated Xiaoxian's forces in two crucial naval battles. In 621, Xiaoxian surrendered to the Tang, who thus gained control of the central Yangtze and the far south. The southeast was occupied by another rebel, Li Zitong, based in Zhejiang. He too was decisively defeated near present-day Nanjing at the end of 621. As had been the case with Xiaoxian's dominions, the southeast was incorporated into the Tang Empire with a minimum of fighting and resistance. A last southern rebellion by Fu Gongtuo, a general who set up an independent regime at Danyang, Nanjing, in 624, was speedily suppressed. After a decade of war and disorder, the empire was completely pacified and unified under the Tang House.